Did you seriously just flag that invoice? Lucas barked loud enough for the entire Denver boardroom to freeze mid-sip of their $5 lattes. Come on, Evelyn, he scoffed. Maybe if you spent half as much time embracing innovation as you do circling dollar signs, we'd be done here by now. That was the first jab. The second came when he leaned back, fingers laced behind his head like some corporate philosopher. Sorry, folks, some of us are still stuck in the early 2000s. Evelyn here thinks vendor audits mean we're under attack. He made air quotes, winked at the interns, smug, condescending. The room laughed awkwardly, but they laughed. Evelyn didn't. She just stared at the invoice in front of her. 4 identical line items billed to a so-called consulting firm for AI integration framework design, a firm that didn't even exist a year ago. The total, $137,800. Same charges, same formatting, repeated every 30 days for the last quarter. She had notes, dates, discrepancies logged. And the company's listed address, a UPS box jammed between a pawn shop and a shuttered dog grooming salon on South Broadway. But none of that mattered now. Lucas, the 30-something CFO who thought personality could whitewash fraud, had just used her as his corporate punching bag. The silence in the room, heavier than the insult. Evelyn didn't flinch. She closed her folder, rose from her chair, and said quietly, "Page 7. Look at the timestamps." Then she walked out. She figured that would be it. It wasn't. 20 minutes later, 2 security guards appeared at her desk. No warning, no explanation. Just a dolly, a box, and a script that started with leadership changes and ended with your email has been deactivated. She didn't even get to close her 401k tab. Lucas. He stood 10 feet away, arms folded, watching like a man supervising a return at Walmart. "You'll never work here again," he said. Low, smug, like he was making a prophecy. That line, that one seared deeper than the dismissal. And if you're still watching, don't just sit there shocked. Hit that subscribe button. 97% of you listen without clicking. Help us keep stories like Evelyn's alive, because this is just the beginning. And every click tells our over-caffeinated crew that you want more of these corporate gut punches. Plus, it drives guys like Lucas up the wall, which, let's be honest, is a bonus. Evelyn didn't cry. Not in the glass elevator. Not in the Uber. Not even when her access card made that hollow rejection beep against the turnstile. But when she got home after peeling off her blazer and noticing the faint outline of her ID badge still indented in the fabric, she sat on her kitchen floor with a glass of boxed wine and stared at nothing. 21 years gone, wiped clean by a smug CFO with a slideshow and a vendetta. Here's the thing about Evelyn. She didn't rise through the ranks of finance by backing down. Something in those ledgers stunk. And it wasn't just Lucas's cologne or his TED Talk one-liners about disruptive accountability. She'd seen ghosts in the spreadsheets, phantom vendors, duplicate payouts, hell, maybe even federal violations if anyone ever bothered to read past the headers. But not yet. Not tonight. She was exhausted, hollowed out. Still, she knew it wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning felt like jet lag wrapped in heartbreak. She sat in her robe, knees to chest, watching her toaster reflect back a warped version of her face. Her inbox silent. No goodbye emails, no check-ins. Just cold, empty space where friendship used to be. People she mentored for years had ghosted her. Her former manager, the one who once called her the moral compass of the department, had gone dark. And the junior analyst she once defended from one of Lucas's passive-aggressive tirades left her on read. Everyone knew. Lucas collected grudges like vintage vinyl, loud fragile, and weirdly treasured. No one wanted to be next. Evelyn skimmed her old performance reviews, not because she needed affirmation, because she needed to believe she wasn't crazy. Evelyn brings precision and ethics to every audit. Evelyn catches risk patterns faster than our predictive models. And yet, here she was, treated like spoiled yogurt left in the break room fridge. No call, no HR paperwork, not even COBRA instructions. She nuked a frozen lasagna and watched it congeal into a beige, tragic blob. didn't eat it. By day 2, she'd rewritten her LinkedIn summary 5 times and deleted it twice. Every draft echoed Lucas too rigid, too old school, too much, too rigid, too traditional, too much. By day 3, Evelyn had spiraled hard. She was combing through industry newsletters, obsessively scanning LinkedIn job updates, even setting Google alerts for Lucas's name, hoping just maybe the truth would surface on its own. She refreshed the SEC database like it was a Vegas slot machine. Nothing. Then she searched how to anonymously report vendor fraud. The results felt like mockery in hyperlink form. She wasn't craving revenge. She wanted her dignity back. But lately, the line between those two had started to blur. That night, after 2 glasses of cheap Cabernet and a single attempt at yoga that left her spine sounding like a haunted floorboard, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, she hit play. "Hey, Evelyn. It's Rachel Nguyen from grad school. It's been ages. Listen, I heard what happened. Lucas, still as insufferable as ever. Anyway, I might have something. We're reviewing some federal contracts, and we need someone who actually understands what due diligence really means. Call me seriously. Could be a good fit." She played it twice, then a third time. Rachel Nguyen. The woman who once challenged a professor over a decimal misplacement in a financial case study and won. Sharp as ever, apparently now leading a consulting firm, Evelyn leaned back, pulse rising, like she'd just power-walked uphill. It wasn't an offer. Not yet. But it was a crack in the silence. She hit callback thumb, hesitating for only a moment. "Someone who knows what due diligence means," Rachel had said. Evelyn did. Intimately. Precisely. Down to the sub-ledger. And for the first time in days, something flickered awake behind her eyes. She wasn't sunk. Not if Rachel was throwing her a rope. Rachel's office wasn't anything like the sanitized icebox cubes she'd endured under Lucas. It smelled like eucalyptus and toner, and the coffee actually tasted like coffee. Evelyn sat in a warm, cluttered conference room with whiteboards filled with phrases like traceable integrity and chain of custody review. She didn't feel like a ghost, just like someone out of uniform in recovery. Rachel swept in, wearing a tailored jacket over leggings, holding a mug that said, "Audit Queen." "You look exhausted," Rachel said, placing it down, "but not broken." Evelyn gave a faint smirk. "Thanks, I think." They skipped the small talk. Short-term contract, NDA thicker than a Colorado phone book, flexible hours, the work not flashy. But it mattered. Evelyn paused before signing. Her hand still shook, but she signed. The first few days were a blur. Rachel's team operated like caffeine-fueled auditors, silent, surgical, and scary good. Evelyn spent hours sifting through flagged emails, questionable invoices, and HR notes compiled from anonymous tips. Half the reports were noise grudges, outdated math, Excel nightmares, but some had bite. And Evelyn knew what bite looked like. The structure, the focus, it grounded her. Her brain, once numbed by Lucas's gaslighting and a decade of internal politics, sparked back to life. Patterns reemerged. Numbers whispered again. She started humming while she worked, tapping her pen to the rhythm of truth she could almost hear. On day 8, she opened a folder labeled Triage WH043, and her breath caught. At first, just a redacted summary memo. Dates, inconsistencies, vague language. Then she read further. The vendor names oddly familiar. Then the screenshots. A login portal she'd once used so often it felt like muscle memory. An invoice template she'd flagged months ago, back when she was still at her old job. Her stomach sank when she reached the metadata. Originating company, Vantacore Solutions, LLC. And if you want to see what happens when truth keeps unfolding, one document, one decision, one downfall at a time, go ahead and subscribe. The next chapter's coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss who shows up next. Her former company, Lucas's Playground. Rachel passed by, caught the look on Evelyn's face, and paused. "You good?" Evelyn didn't look up. Her mouth was dry. This is where I used to work," she said. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You're sure? Evelyn nodded, still scanning. These vendors, they're his. Lucas set up these ghost firms. I flagged some of this stuff months ago, but no one cared. Rachel folded her arms, tone shifting. They care now. This file's on the escalation path. If it checks out, the board's already prepping to bring in a forensic firm. Evelyn stayed still. You're not saying what I think you're saying. Rachel gave a subtle shrug. You know the system, the language, the back doors. You could make this clean. The air felt heavier, dense with history. Evelyn's pulse thumped in her ears. She hadn't been chasing revenge, just truth, justice, something that resembled closure. Still, of all the companies in all the country, this was the one she now held in her hands, like a live grenade. Evelyn closed the file, slowly set it down, like it might explode. I know the system, she said, voice low and clear. Inside and out, Evelyn said. Rachel grinned. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Evelyn was nursing an iced cold brew, scrolling through procurement logs, when Rachel stormed into the war room like a game show host with $1 million announcement. Guess who just scored a $1 million per week audit contract? Evelyn blinked. Please don't say who I think you're about to say. Rachel dropped a navy blue folder on the table, her smile sharp as a scalpel. Vantacor Logistics. Word got out about the internal whistleblower file, and now the regulatory board is watching them like hawks. Execs are scrambling to show they're proactively cooperating. They want an outside firm, clean, unbiased, and viciously competent. Sound like anyone we know? Evelyn stared at the folder. It looked like any other tabbed, clipped, labeled in calm font. But there on the front cover was a paperclip. And under it, her name. Lead auditor? She asked, voice cautious. You're sure you want me on this? Rachel didn't even blink. No one knows those tricks like you. Their board didn't just approve you, they requested a senior forensic lead with prior knowledge of the internal systems. You're the only one in our network who qualifies. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, arms folded. You remember what he did to me? Rachel's tone softened, but her words stayed clear. I do. I also know exactly what you're capable of. I'm not asking you to settle a score. I'm asking you to do what you've always done, spot ghosts in spreadsheets. There was a long pause. Evelyn traced a fingertip across the folder. Her name felt distant, surreal. She had spent 2 decades being spoken over by louder voices. Lucas built a kingdom of flash and fog while she quietly made the engines run. Then he tossed her for noticing the fuel lines were leaking. Now, the board wanted her to rip open the walls and trace the rot, and they were paying her 7 figures a week to do it. She nodded once. I'm in. Rachel's grin faded into something serious. Good. Just one thing I need you cold. No heat. If it gets personal, we lose credibility. Evelyn's lips curled slightly. Don't worry. I'll let the numbers do the talking. By Friday, her team had full access. Quiet, authorized, and anonymous. No one at Vantacor knew Evelyn was back. Not yet. Least of all Lucas. Evelyn worked quietly, methodically, like a surgeon with a grudge she'd buried beneath clean precision. Her new office was temporary. Glass-walled, perched on the same floor where she'd once been. Walked out with a cardboard box and a hollow HR apology. Now she sat directly across from the very conference room where it happened. Only this time, she held the scalpel. When staff passed her desk and asked, "Need anything?" "Ma'am." She smiled and replied, "Just the truth." She dug through invoice chains, rechecked vendor logs, and pulled data from dusty backups no one had touched in years. Signs of rot appeared fast. Invoices sidestepping procurement, timestamps that didn't line up, wire transfers for consulting fees landing in shell companies based out of Montana P.O. boxes. Evelyn documented everything, cross-checking addresses, flagging repeat names. Every day uncovered another breadcrumb. And every day she thought about Lucas. She didn't flinch when walking past the break room where he once mocked her in front of interns. Didn't blink when she saw her old cubicle had been replaced with a standing desk and a dusty ficus. She kept auditing. No leaks, no gloating, no smug reveals. Because Lucas didn't know she was back. Not yet. The first real thread unraveled with a company labeled Kernix Core Systems, LLC. Supposedly a cloud optimization partner charging $28,000 a month for hybrid AI architecture deployment. Sounded flashy. Problem was, Evelyn had seen that same project summary nearly word for word from a different vendor in an audit last year. So she went deeper. Kernix's registered address, a garage in Dayton, Ohio. She pulled the incorporation paperwork. Name listed, Derek Lang, which hit her wrong. She dug through an old holiday RSVP list from a leadership dinner 3 years ago, and there he was. Derek Lang, Lucas's brother-in-law, +1, noted dairy-free. Evelyn leaned back and exhaled. Her hands were steady now. The numbers whispered again, this time louder. By Thursday, she had a list, not 2 vendors, 12, all buried beneath bloated contracts packed with buzzwords and nonsense. The naming patterns were lazy, Cortec, Tech, Core, Corvis, like Lucas had run out of ideas. She mapped the trails. Invoice, shell company, payment, no scrutiny, just rubber stamps from 2 departments, both now reporting directly to Lucas since last year's restructuring. She turned to the interviews next. Most staff were polite but guarded, eyes flicking toward the exit, voices leveled into neutral territory. A few offered the usual throwaway lines. Looked fine to me, or Lucas said it had board approval. I figured someone else was tracking that. But the tension, it was thick, familiar, like they'd been breathing the rot so long they no longer smelled it. Then came Nathan. Nathan was a junior analyst, 26 maybe. Hairline losing ground, early eyes jittery from energy drinks and poor sleep. His tie looked like it was one stress twitch away from a full mutiny. Evelyn brought him in under the pretense of clarifying procurement records. Midway through discussing a $64,000 tech symposium expense, his hands started to shake. I didn't enter that one. Directly? He said, voice cracking like a busted veneer. But I've seen it. 3 other times. Different departments. Same vendor, same format. Evelyn didn't speak, just waited. Nathan leaned in, lowered his voice. Okay, I probably shouldn't be telling you this. But there's a file hidden on the shared drive. You gotta search it with a / and _ combo. Lucas doesn't know I know, but some of us saw it. Evelyn's pen slowed. Where does it lead? He swallowed. A garage unit over on Lowell Street, West Denver. I passed it once by accident. No sign, just a roll-up door and a lonely mailbox. Who owns it? Nathan glanced around, then whispered, Derek Lang, Lucas's brother-in-law. Evelyn tapped her pen twice, then calmly closed her notebook. Nathan? She said evenly, you didn't report anything. You clarified an entry. That's all. He blinked, then nodded, relief washing over him like he'd been thrown a life jacket. Back at her desk, Evelyn began threading the timeline. Payments, vendor formations, approval trails. She cross-referenced everything with internal memos signed by Lucas himself. The picture came together fast. Lucas wasn't just abusing the system, he was the system. A one-man shell factory, funneling contracts through familiar names and calling it innovation. She didn't feel victorious. She felt surgical, cold, sharp, focused. Lucas thought the truth was buried, but he hadn't counted on the woman he publicly dismissed leading the autopsy. And she was just getting started. It began with a calendar shift. Lucas's assistant canceled 2 lunches and an investor call in the same hour. Then came the silence. Email, silence. Normally, Lucas was a one-man digital foghorn, mass-blasting buzzwords like synergy velocity and whatever jargon passed for vision that week. But now, silence. Just clipped one-liners and passive-aggressive forwards. Even his hallway stride had changed slower, stiffer, like he'd started hearing footsteps in carpeted corridors. Evelyn noticed, not because she was looking for weakness, but because patterns mattered. And Lucas's pattern had shifted. By week 2, his questions started surfacing, filtered through lieutenants. Is this audit routine? How long do third-party reviews usually last? What if some of the files were miscategorized? Evelyn answered every query in the same measured tone, Cool, factual, unshakable. Her reports were stamped with documentation timelines, audit trail summaries, no adjectives. No speculation, just numbers, and numbers don't lie. She didn't hide, but she didn't grandstand either. Every report bore her full name. Every summary went straight to the board's legal counsel. It wasn't her job to be invisible. It was her job to be accurate. Then came the whispers. In elevators by coffee stations, words like conflict of interest, grudge audit. One department manager asked her outright voice syrupy with pretend concern, "So, you used to work here?" She smiled politely. "No, I survived here." Later, a compliance officer from Rachel's firm cornered her in the stairwell. "Just FYI," he said quietly. "Someone upstairs thinks this is personal. Not me, but Lucas has been digging, asking who's leading the team." Evelyn gave a small nod. "He can dig all he wants. The numbers won't change." That afternoon, Rachel forwarded an email from Lucas. Subject: audit team leadership clarity. His message was short panic, hiding behind pretentious phrasing. "Rachel, I've been reviewing the latest audit output. It feels unusually targeted. Who is leading your on-site team?" Evelyn read it twice. Then again, she stared out the glass wall of her borrowed office. Across the floor, Lucas was just a blur. Arms folded, jaw locked, glaring at a junior engineer like he might vaporize from pressure. Rachel's reply: "Lucas, the lead, was selected by your board. R." That was it. No name, no defense, just the truth. His own board had handed her the scalpel. Now, Lucas was bleeding cut by clean, documented facts. Evelyn didn't smile. She didn't need to. That night, she drafted her next report. The header: Unsubstantiated Vendor Payments Phase 2 Summary. 57 pages, 15 flagged entries, 3 confirmed wire transfers to companies registered under Derek Lang. It ended with one bold line: recommendation escalate to Internal Legal and Financial Crime Review Committee. Evelyn signed it, closed the file, and shut off the light. Lucas could feel the walls closing in. Evelyn. She just kept building them one spreadsheet at a time. The room was dead quiet even before he stepped in. It was meant to be a standard alignment meeting, compliance check-in with 2 board observers, legal counsel, and Rachel at the head of the table. Evelyn sat 3 seats down, composed, navy blazer crisp, calmly flipping through a stack of procurement summaries with red flag tabs poking out. The door hadn't even clicked shut when Lucas's voice broke the room like a glass dropped in a cathedral. "What the hell is she doing here?" Chairs shifted. A pen rolled off the table. One of the board members blinked slowly, like he was about to witness something deeply uncomfortable. Lucas's face was crimson, jaw tight, eyes wild. "This is a conflict of interest. She worked here. She's biased. She's had it out for me since the day I let her go." Evelyn didn't flinch. She set her pen down and folded her hands. "I'm not here for you, Lucas." "Oh, come on." She met his gaze, cold, controlled. "No conflict," she said flatly. "Just the truth you were too arrogant to see." That stopped him for a moment. Rachel leaned back, crossing one leg over the other. Her voice was cool and exact. "Lucas, let's not forget we didn't appoint Evelyn. Your board did. They requested a lead with first-hand knowledge of your system's vendor structures and internal protocols." Lucas turned to the board representative, like a child appealing a teacher's grade. "You knew she'd be biased. This isn't an audit, it's a witch hunt." Legal counsel cleared her throat. "The findings have been thorough and independently verifiable. I've seen no indication of bias, only facts." Evelyn didn't look at anyone but Lucas. She didn't need volume. She'd learned long ago how men like him used it to dominate a room. "You fired me for flagging the same inconsistencies that triggered this audit. You mocked me. You erased me." She leaned forward. "And now, those instincts, they're the reason your board is shielding itself from you." But instead, Lucas did what cowards do when the bullets turn out to be real. He sputtered. "I'll go to the press," he hissed. "I leaked this whole thing." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "So, your plan is to publicly admit that your CFO is under audit by the forensic expert you fired without cause, who was then hired back by your own board to clean up your mess." No one laughed, But Evelyn could feel the air fracture just slightly. Lucas's voice dropped to a growl. "This isn't over." Evelyn calmly gathered her files. "For you?" she said without blinking. "It just might be." She walked out of the room, silent and unshaken. The hallway outside looked the same dull gray carpet, same flickering light near the elevator. But the atmosphere had shifted. The silence didn't buzz with shame anymore. It pulsed with authority. Evelyn hadn't faced him with anger or vengeance, but with proof. Facts, clean, organized, undeniable truth. And it had landed like a hammer on rotted wood. At 9:42 a.m. on Monday, Evelyn submitted her final report. No grand announcement, just a secure file upload. Subject line, Phase 4. Summary, vendor abuse and financial misconduct findings. Page 118 bore her name in plain Helvetica. The table of contents read like a forensic autopsy. 34 flagged wire transfers. 10 LLCs tied directly to Lucas's personal network. 5 expense codes backdated under Lucas's login. And one final section added after another junior staffer came forward detailing off-book reimbursements and doctored compliance approvals. Dry language. But anyone reading between the lines saw the truth: fraud, wire fraud, possible RICO violations. By 2:00 p.m., the board called an emergency session. By 4:17, Lucas was officially placed on leave pending legal and regulatory review. A company-wide memo went out, no detail, no spin, just a sterile announcement of absence and transition. Slack channels lit up with emojis and cryptic gifs. Someone even dropped a scene from The Departed. Evelyn didn't look. She was barefoot in her hotel suite, sipping green tea on the cold tile, watching the Denver skyline fade to steel gray. It wasn't joy she felt. It was stillness. For the first time in years, no one silenced her. No one edited her warnings. The facts had spoken, and the fallout had begun. That night, as she returned her visitor badge, the elevator doors slid open, and in stepped Maria Delgado, the company's general counsel. "I read the full report," Maria said quietly as the elevator descended. "You didn't just protect the board. You saved the company." Evelyn gave a small nod. "I just followed the numbers." "You could have spun it harder. But you didn't editorialize. You didn't dramatize." "I didn't need to." Maria let the silence hang a moment longer. "Thank you, Evelyn. Truly." Evelyn didn't respond. She didn't have to. In the lobby, she dropped her access badge into the return box. No speech, no handshake, no symbolic pause. Just the clean exit she should have had the first time. At 11:36 p.m., her phone buzzed. A single message lit up her lock screen like a warning flare. "Lucas, we can still fix this. Call me. No one else needs to know." She stared at it, thumb hovering just above the screen. Then she locked the phone, set it face down on the nightstand, and went to bed. No reply. Not now. Not ever. Because Lucas wasn't asking for justice. He was asking for silence. And Evelyn had finally learned the power of saying nothing at all. The feds don't kick in doors or blare sirens. They move with clockwork precision. At exactly 10:04 a.m., 2 unmarked black SUVs pulled into the side entrance of Vantacor's downtown Denver headquarters. 4 federal agents in plain suits stepped out, IDs, in hand eyes sharp and practiced. Upstairs, Lucas was mid-presentation in the Innovation Theater, pitching operational scalability to anxious stakeholders and 2 interns trying to stay awake. Evelyn stood in the hallway, arms crossed, blending into the background noise of badge-wearing nobodies. She watched him perform, tie-loosened sleeves rolled pacing in front of a deck of jargon-heavy slides. His voice carried through the glass, confident and oblivious. Then came the shift. An assistant whispered into the ear of a senior VP. He went pale, then stood. Seconds later, an agent entered. Calm, steady, credentials held high. The room froze. Lucas stalled mid-sentence laser pointer, trembling on a slide that read, "Optimizing transparency." The irony almost made Evelyn smile. The agent spoke low, but every syllable echoed. Lucas Grant, you are under investigation for financial fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit corporate racketeering. Please come with us. He sputtered. What? No! This my legal team, this isn't! But it was. The handcuffs clicked louder than the agent's voice. His wrists were bound, his face drained of color. No one gasped, no one flinched. They just watched. Like the drawn-out final scene of a film nobody enjoyed but couldn't stop watching. Evelyn remained still, just outside the glass wall behind the muted tint of the corridor. Lucas never saw her. Never saw the woman he'd tried to bury months ago, standing tall and composed, while his empire unraveled under fluorescent lights and federal protocol. As the agents walked him out, Evelyn turned away. The front desk hadn't changed. Still the same chipped laminate counter, same pen chained to a metal stand that didn't quite work. The receptionist barely looked up as Evelyn approached. She reached into her bag and pulled out her old badge, the one they deactivated like she'd never mattered. She placed it gently on the counter. No speech, no farewell, just quiet closure. Outside, she slipped on her sunglasses and descended the front steps as controlled chaos bloomed behind her. Phones buzzed with breaking news. Security scrambled. Legal whispered. Vonticor's stock price began its freefall before noon. Analysts called it unexpected volatility. Insiders knew better. Evelyn didn't need to speak. The spreadsheets had done it for her. The facts had stood unshaken. The system, no matter how corrupted, had finally answered. Truth had landed, and it had landed hard. As she passed through the revolving glass doors, one final time, she whispered to herself, just loud enough to hear over the wind, never working here again. You're damn right. If you've ever been silenced, overlooked, or made to feel invisible, drop me a comment below. Tell me what you would have done. Or just let me know I wasn't alone. Because I didn't do this for revenge. I did it. So the truth would finally speak louder than the noise. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't always need to shout to be heard. You just need to stand your ground and let the facts walk with you.